Hello everyone, this video is about the anatomy of the skin, the first lesson for everyone who learns the dermatology. Hello everyone, this video is about the anatomy of the skin, the first lesson for everyone who learns dermatology. As you know, skin is the largest organ in the body and covers the body's entire external surface. It shields the body against the heat, light, injury, and infection. The skin also helps regulate body temperature, gathers sensory information from the environment, stores water, fat, and vitamin D, and it plays a role in the immune system to protect us from disease. So the skin has many functions, and the main functions are: it provides a protective barrier against mechanical, thermal, and physical injury and hazardous substances, as well as harmful effects of UV radiation. The skin helps regulate temperature, acts as the sensory organ, such as touch, detects temperature. It prevents loss of moisture, and it is an immune organ to detect infections. Besides those functions, the skin also gives us beauty. Basically, the skin is comprised of two layers that cover a third fatty layer. These three layers differ in function, thickness, and strength. The outer layer is called the epidermis. It is a top protective layer that contains a melanin-producing melanocyte. The second layer, located under the epidermis, is called the dermis. It contains nerve endings, sweat glands, oil glands, and hair follicles. Under the two skin layers is the fatty layer of subcutaneous tissue, known as the subcutis or the hypodermis. So the skin is made of three layers: the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis, all three of which vary significantly in their anatomy and function. Let's go through the epidermis. The epidermis is only 0.05 mm thick on the eyelid and is 1.5 mm thick on the palms and the soles of the feet. The epidermis layer itself is made of 5 sublayers that work together to continually rebuild the surface of the skin. They are stratum basale, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and stratum corneum. The stratum basale, or we can call it the basal cell layer, or stratum germinosum, due to the fact that it is constantly germinating, which means producing new cells. It is the innermost layer of the epidermis and contains small round cells called the basal cells. The basal cells continually divide, and new cells constantly push older ones up toward the surface of the skin, where they are eventually set. The time required for a basal cell to divide, differentiate, and move to the stratum corneum is 14 days. And then we'll need about 14 days for it to form into scalp and fall off. Thus, the total time to regenerate the entire epidermis is approximately 28 days. But this setting process slows down with age. Complete cell turnover occurs every 28 to 30 days in young adults, while the same process takes 45 to 50 days in elderly adults. The next sublayer is the stratum spinosum, or we can call it the squamous cell layer. In the cytoplasm of squamous cells, there are lamellar granules. These granules contain a composition of lipids such as phospholipid, sphingolipids, and cholesterol. In the uppermost granular cells, the body membrane of the algae fuses into the cell plasma membrane and releases lipid to form a lipid layer. A very effective water-resistant barrier, helping the skin retain water and avoiding dry the skin. The stratum granulosum, or the granule cell layer. In the cytoplasm of granule cell layer, there are many keratohyalin, which are composed mainly of filaggrin precursor. During the transition from the granule cells to keratinocytes, filaggrin precursor are converted to filaggrin, which is the major component of natural moisturizing factors. The stratum lucidum, it is very special because it's always present in thicker skin found in the palms and the soles. It consisting of ellatin, which is the transformation product of keratohyalin. And the final stage of the epidermis is the stratum corneum. The stratum corneum is the outermost layer of the epidermis and marks the final stage of keratinocyte maturation and development. Keratinocytes at the basal layer of the epidermis are proliferative, and as the cells mature up the epidermis, they slowly lose proliferative potential and undergo programmed destruction. As they go to the stratum corneum, the cell's nucleus becomes smaller, the cytoplasm is thicker, and at last, the keratinocytes at the stratum corneum is completely flattened. There is no nucleus, and in the cytoplasm there are only keratinocytes, keratin fibers, as you can see here, the cells in the stratum corneum. The keratin fiber overlap to form a firm block to resist external impact. The epidermis has no blood vessels, so it has to be nourished by interstitial fluid. Nerve only branch to the basal layer. The real skin, or the dermis, is located beneath the epidermis and is the thickest of the three layers of the skin, making up approximately 90% of the thickness of the skin. The main functions of the dermis are to regulate temperature and to supply the epidermis with nutrient-saturated blood. Much of the body's water supply is stored within the dermis. The dermis and epidermis are separated by the basement membrane, or the BMC, as you can see here in the picture. The basement membrane is not straight, it's wavy, and the upper part here is called the papillary dermis, and the lower part here is called the reticular layer. The upper one, papillary layer, contains a thin arrangement of collagen fibers. The papillary layer supplies nutrients to select layers of the epidermis and regulates temperature. Both of these functions are accomplished with a thin, extensive vascular system that operates similarly to other vascular systems in the body. Constriction and expansion control the amount of blood that flows through the skin and dictate whether the body heat is expelled when the skin is hot or conserved when it is cold. The lower one, reticular layer, is thicker and made of thick collagen fibers that are arranged in parallel to the surface of the skin. The reticular layer is denser than the papillary dermis and it strengthens the skin, providing structure and elasticity. It also supports other components of the skin, such as hair follicles, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands that we will discuss in the next video. The hypodermis. The hypodermis, or the subcutis, is the innermost layer of the skin and consists of a network of fat and collagen cells. The subcutis is also known as the subcutaneous layer and functions as both an insulator, conserving the body's heat, and as a shock absorber, protecting the inner organ. It also stores fat and an energy reserve for the body. The blood vessels, nerves, lymph vessels, and hair follicles also cross through this layer. The thickness of this layer varies throughout the body and from the person to the person. So, that is all the basic information about the anatomy of the skin. In next video, we will discuss about the cells in three layers of the skin, as well as collagen, elastin fiber, and other appendages such as hair, nail, and glands. Thank you for watching.